So I'm just going to ask you a few questions. If you don't want to answer any of them, that's fine. Just say and we can skip over them, yeah? How has divorce affected your life currently?
I think divorce has affected my life quite negatively. I feel isolated most of the time, and it's dramatised my life a lot, and I feel that's very unnecessary. It's brought me lots of difficulties, mentally, financially, and that may just be my situation, but from my point of view, it's been a very bad experience.
Divorce has affected my life, well, say quite a bit, because my parents are obviously, we interchange between the two houses, so every Friday we switch. Obviously I see my mum for a week and then my dad for another week, which is hard, but yeah, it's alright spending time with different parents. Financially as well, it's different.
Currently, my parents have been divorced for over 10 years now, so I feel like, because I'm 25 now, so part of it is definitely like bottling it away and like pretending like it's fine, whatever, but definitely doesn't affect me half as much as it used to, like, growing up. I think especially because my parents divorced when I was like 10, so then those years, like teenage years, are vital, and they definitely affected me then. But currently now, I'd say kind of just used to it, like grown up with it and got very much used to pretending it's fine.
In 1858, divorce law was introduced, although it was too expensive for many people up until the 1920s. The Divorce Reform Act in 1969 meant that people could end marriages that had irretrievably broken down, and neither partner had to prove fault. Divorce rates in the 1940s shot up and continued to go up again in the 70s, but rates reached an all-time high in the late 80s.
So do you feel indifferent to your peers who have a two-parent household?
Definitely. I do feel that when I go to my friends' houses who have a two-parent home or a two-parent family, I get quite jealous. That's quite a bad feeling, I know. However, I really do envy it, and it can make me feel quite sad, and most of all, I feel I can talk to people who have the similar situation as me, meaning like a divorced family. I can speak to them better, they understand me better, they understand my situation, and that does affect my friendships. It does make me feel quite, like I said, isolated and alone, and quite bad.
Do you think seeing a divorce, will it affect any of your romantic or platonic relationships going forward in your life?
Definitely. So far, even though I am young, I have noticed that with the relationships that I've noticed and been around within my childhood, has most definitely affected my relationships and my friendships, romantic or platonic. And even though I have been through therapy, I feel it still will affect my relationships in the future. I just kind of grow to learn these habits, and I am quite scared of different things which will build trust issues and everything else that comes with it.
What are your opinions on divorce as a whole?
My feelings are very 50-50. I think, if you're in a very unhappy marriage, that sure, divorce as an option is a good idea. It can be traumatic or anything, but it's a good way out. However, it's very daunting, I think, not only on the children, but as individuals going through the divorce, it's quite hard. So I don't know, my opinions are obviously going to be quite negative towards it, but then again, it's still quite a good option to have.
So do you think you're likely to get married in the future?
I don't think so. I've always been a bit scared of marriage. Maybe it will change when I'm a bit older. However, I don't really see a point in marriage. And I just think if I find a person, I find a person. I don't really have to go through the whole scene of it.
So then do you think you're less likely to get a divorce in the future, say you did get married?
Hopefully. Although some people say in my family that's kind of a curse. So we're all going to get divorced. Hopefully not. I mean, if I do choose to get married, hopefully it'll be a happy marriage. However, there may be a chance of it, but I really do hope that I'd never have to go through that myself.
So do you think it's affected your family financially?
Yes, definitely. It went from a 2-person income house to 1, and it became extremely difficult. There were times where we were so much in financial need that we were homeless for a bit. We were sofa surfing around our friends' houses, and it was extremely hard. You know, I'd see my friends at school getting new presents for Christmas and everything, and our Christmas present was just having the heating on for like 15 minutes. Yeah.
So going on from that, with the financial side of things, has that also affected your education?
Absolutely. Not only was I unable to go on school trips or school holidays or partake in any school clubs that you had to pay for, anything, but I think school doesn't really understand the severity of divorce and how it can affect children. They kind of assume that it's just between the parents and never really attend to the children's mental health.
Do you feel indifferent to your peers who have a 2-parent household?
I would say no. However, when I go to, let's say, my friend's house, it does feel a bit weird, because it brings back certain memories to when my parents were together, which obviously is upsetting, but yeah.
That's similar to me. Whenever I see my mate, and he's with his family and they're going away to different countries and that, it also does affect me because obviously I don't get to have that same bond with my family where we could go away somewhere and enjoy time and spend time together and all get along.
Do you think seeing a divorce, do you think it will affect your romantic or platonic relationships in the future?
I find that it will, purely for the fact that I don't think I would ever get married because of seeing the pain that they had to go through with the whole paperwork, financial situations, and I find that I wouldn't want to go through that. I wouldn't want to put my future other half through that because it would be really hard for both of us, and hypothetically speaking, if we do have kids, it would be terrible for them to go through because then they'll have to go through what me and Jane had to go through, and it's not nice.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Caden. I think that, like, with the divorce, obviously my parents split recently, but it's taken quite a long time for the divorce, where it still hasn't. But yeah, it takes a long time to go through.
So do you think with this generation there being more divorces, do you think that the marriage rate will go down?
I guess it won't. I feel like it will go down for now for certain people. Like the older generation now, I find that they're going to get more divorces because it's easier now. And I find that a lot of people nowadays in my generation, they won't get married because purely for the fact that I find that how social media and that is more shown on social media that it's better to stay single or have a relationship, never get married, and marriage isn't what you want to, it's not what it seems. They say that it always falls back on the guy situation, whereas else it can fall back on the women as well. So I find that it's like two arguments pressing against each other, and that the generation nowadays, I don't think we're strong enough to go through any of that, so we'll just keep it as a more like just a relationship kind of style.
Yeah, I agree. In this generation now, you see many people in our generation that get together, cheating. I don't think it will help commitment for either parties in the future, because they'll have that commitment issue / trust in their way, and I don't think it will help them, and I don't think they'll get married.
Yeah. What are your opinions on divorce as a whole?
I think that people think divorce is the easy route out, instead of, I don't know, going to a therapist and retrying things.
Yeah.
So I think that people aren't willing to try as much as...
No. So, do you know what's funny is divorce rates have actually gone down from the
really?
80s. They've just been
Right.
continuing going down. So, I mean, mainly it's just people that are not getting married as much.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you think that will continue to go down as people aren't marrying
Yes.
because of the generation before us that are getting
Yeah.
divorced?
I find that as well, another thing, before in the previous generations, that you was told to get that one person, marry them as soon as possible, have children. That's exactly how it is nowadays. Before then, nowadays, they say take your time, be picky, but now we're being too picky, and then obviously not much marriages.
Yeah, and also to do with that point, it's also like arranged marriages as well, because in the older generation there was quite a few arranged
Yeah.
marriages, which is obviously going to increase the marriage rate. But now, obviously, like Kanan said, they're saying find the person, take your time. So obviously it's going to go on the lower.
Yeah. Do you think you're less likely to get a divorce in the future? Do you think that you'd try and work harder? Let's say you did get married. Do you think you'd now work harder at a marriage because you've seen the backlash of what happens during a divorce?
Yes, if I was to get married, I would probably try and work as hard as possible to keep the marriage going. Obviously, there's numerous ways to go about keeping your marriage together. Like Jen said previously, therapists will help you to understand your relationship a bit better and how the differences and how feelings are for both parties. But yeah.
Do you think it has affected your family financially?
I do think it has. Obviously, living in two different houses, parents have got to do a lot more than they did. Like, for instance, let's say they were still together, one would do the shop, however, both have to do the shop now. Both have to buy separate presents instead of one. So I don't think there's a lot of saving as much as there were. I think financially it is taking a toll on the both of them.
I agree with that as well. I think financially, for my situation, it was more like my dad would have to pay a lot more, like they say. How it went through, my dad wasn't paying a lot of money for me, so that then solicitors would have to get involved, and it made it even more harder because maybe he was more reluctant because he didn't want to go through that route. And it's a lot harder as well for a guy who's very young at the time to go through that, and that he was having to do all this big change rather when he's set in one mindset and he wanted to keep it, but it wasn't going to go his way.
So, leading on from that, financially and education kind of go like within each other. Do you think it's affected your education?
I find that when I was younger, primary school times, I find that it did, purely for the fact that it was all really new to me, adjusting, going to households. My dad was living in Bournemouth, going to Bournemouth, then coming back, every other Saturdays and Sundays, and doing that, I hated it because I was away from my parents, like my mum, and it was horrible. So I guess educational wise as well, seeing other people, when you're going to school with their parents and that, like how we touched on a previous question, it didn't necessarily academically wise touch me as much, but partially I would say, because there'd be times when I wasn't focusing on my work because I was thinking of something else at home life.
No, I 100% agree with Kano. I don't think it academically it's had a toll on me. I do think that like it does take a toll when like I was in like year 8 when they split, and in lockdown learning, that was all I was thinking about. However, I've taken GCSEs, I've kind of used it as a sort of motivation, and yeah, I think that's quite benefited me.
Financial hardships are also a lot more common after divorce. Many families then must move to smaller homes. It is especially difficult for parents who continue to be single after divorce, as they only have one source of income, which can take a toll on the children. It can cause more stress and affect their education directly. 65% of children say it affected their GCSE results, and 44% say it affected their A-levels.
So did you feel indifferent to your peers who had a 2-parent household?
Yeah, definitely, especially when I was younger. And yeah, like my friends who had a mum and dad, it was kind of like, I don't know whether it's where we grew up around or whatever, but it was something that was like noticeable, and I don't know whether I was just overthinking it, but it was like, oh, I am like an odd one out almost, like, and it was like a noticeable thing, like a characteristic that was defined by it in a way. Maybe that was just my perception, I don't know. But yeah, it's definitely noticeable, and I think like looking back now, like 2 of my best friends, I am like very close with their dads. Like growing up, they were more my father figures in a way. So I guess that affected it in that way. But it was very noticeable, definitely growing up. Yeah.
So do you think seeing a divorce, do you think it will affect romantic or platonic relationships going forward, or perhaps in the past?
Yeah. Yeah, like not so much platonic, because I think divorce is quite common now, sadly, but relationship, yes. Like if I look back on my previous 2 relationships, like my first serious relationship, his parents were very happily married, and I think I always felt that was like quite stark, like similar to how I was saying with the friendship thing. Like maybe it was just me and my perception, but it was something I felt like disconnected to him in a way. Whereas like my most recent ex, his parents are divorced, and he has like a similar relationship with his dad as I have with my dad, and that was definitely something that connected us. Not something we really spoke about that much, but like it was just like subtle and known. But yeah, that definitely connected us, and probably in the future I will like maybe even subconsciously be drawn to people that also have divorced parents, because it's just something you can connect on. Yeah.
Yeah, so looking on that, what are your opinions on divorce as a whole?
It's so common. It's like it's really sad that it's just like so normal now. And yeah, I mean, some people are fine with it. Like some parents it's okay, like can co-parent still, but I think the majority it's like they hate each other. So yeah, it makes me scared, definitely, like about marriage, I guess, and whether it's worth it, and like yeah.
So do you think that you're less likely to get married in the future?
I don't know, you know, that's really weird. That's really scary to think about, and weird to think about. But when I was younger, I remember saying to my mum, like, yeah, I'm definitely not getting married. It was I think because it was when it was current, like, things still happening in a divorce, and like my mum and dad still having some form of contact, like things being brought up. I was like, yeah, it's not worth it. I'm definitely not getting married. And now I'm kind of like, I guess like indifferent to it. I don't really. It's not something that I'm like, oh my god, I can't wait to be married. That's definitely not that's no. More just, I mean, a wedding sounds fun, but actual marriage, I don't think it's like, I think you can love someone and be with someone, you don't have to get married to them. I think like, it sounds like a big chore almost, like a big, is it worth it? Because the whole divorce thing, it's, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm indifferent to it, I'd say.
So, from the divorce, did it affect your education growing up?
Maybe in a way, yeah. It definitely affected my brother and sisters, I'd say, because financially, that affected it. Like, when my parents were together, we were going to we lived abroad, but so we kind of had to go to international schools. And actually this is kind of random, but I saw my dad recently, and we went to his secondary school, and he was like, I should have sent you here. It was like a boarding school and stuff, which I would have loved. But for me, I went to a grammar school, so it's based on educational, it's based on selective, in that form. But if I hadn't got into that, then I would have ended up going to where my sister and brother went, which I would have loved as well. But I think my mum and dad were together. Financially, I would have probably gone to a different school, maybe private or something, which I probably wouldn't have enjoyed anyway. I don't know. It's all I don't know. But yeah, I think in the financial sense, my education would have probably been different in that sense. My brothers and sisters would have definitely, yeah.
So I was going to lead on from that financially.
Oh
How did it
yeah, my God,
affect?
that's the biggest one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did it affect your
Probably
family?
more than almost as much as emotionally. But then it ties into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird because I always try and be optimistic, so I'm always I'm actually really grateful that I didn't grow up living with my dad. Obviously I grew up till I was 10, but past that, because it would mean I would be really ungrateful for, I would take things for granted and stuff, because I know that he would have, financially he would have, I don't know how to explain it, but I think, I look back on it, I'm if I did continue living with my dad, maybe I wouldn't appreciate things as much. Maybe be spoiled or something, I don't know. I don't think I'm the type of person to be like that anyway, but who knows. But on the flip side, yes, definitely financially. Just everything. And seeing your mum struggle and stuff like that with money, and it just sucks, because it's such a horrible thing to talk about money, but it definitely does play a massive factor. And it makes it so cold-hearted, the whole divorce thing, because no one really wants to talk about money, but it's important, everyone needs it, and it sucks, I guess, but it has made me appreciate things a bit more, and I'm grateful in that sense.